What up, JP Nation? This your boy JP. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to my channel. If you're a new subscriber, welcome to my channel where we do basketball reaction videos and other basketball content. If you love the game of basketball like I do, make sure you subscribe to ItzJustJP down below. Click the notification bell. You know where our next upload is on the road to 40K. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Today we are doing another Wilt Chamberlain reaction video. This is NBA Legends react to how crazy good Wilt Chamberlain was. We already seen how good Wilt Chamberlain was from Nonstop Sports. This is NBA Legends. I'm talking about the legends of the game, the guys that paved the way for the players in today's league. So, yeah, man, I'm very excited to watch this video, man. Shout out to Latest Hoops, man. They make some great content, so shout out to Latest Hoops. Definitely let me know in the comments below what other Wilt Chamberlain reaction video you want me to react to next, which we are on the series of Wilt Chamberlain. Thank you all so much for the love and support you have given for the Larry Bird series. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Hopefully the young guys will know how great Larry Bird was. Now, hopefully these young guys should know how great Wilt Chamberlain was. We're trying to teach these young guys how great these players were. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's make sure we rack up the likes too as well.
One name that often gets overlooked in conversations about NBA greats is Wilt Chamberlain. His achievements are usually undermined and dismissed as a product of their era, the league he played in, and the lack of competition back then. But we're here to tell you that none of this changes how good of a player Wilt was. Don't believe us? Maybe you'll believe it after hearing what other NBA legends have to say about the OG Goliath. First off, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's comments. It's hard to believe that it's been 60 years since Wilt Chamberlain's historic 100-point game. Wilt's career was a complete anomaly in terms of statistics. His numbers were incredible, with 55 rebounds in a single game, a season average of 50 points per game, 118 games of 50 or more points, and over 9 assists per game in one season. Some of these stats may never be broken. Well, there was someone who many people believe came dangerously close to giving Big Will a run for his money. After Chamberlain dominated the NBA in the 1950s and 60s, another promising big man arrived and shook up the whole league. Of course, we're talking about the one and only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Many thought he was next in line and was prepared to carry the mantle for the next generation. The then 26-year-old center was in his fourth...
A little question. Wilt Chamberlain came into the league in 1959, so he dominated the 60s. He dominated the 60s.
Season when Wilt retired. So Kareem always saw Chamberlain as an idol rather than an adversary. In a 2019 interview, while talking about the legend, Kareem said, "He's as formidable as Shaq was, physical, 300 pounds of steel and agility and athleticism. Wilt was all of that," he added. And he wasn't wrong. Wilt averaged 16 points in 8...
I'm sorry to keep interrupting this. That's probably the nicest quote I've seen Kareem say about Wilt Chamberlain, because Kareem and Wilt was not the best of friends and all. They used to be close because Kareem helped the Wilt. You know, Wilt really helped him when he was coming around the scenes in high school, when he was gaining a reputation. I'm talking about Kareem as like a great player in high school, and Wilt really helped him out, you know, in terms of just giving them advice and other things too as well. And then the whole thing what happened with Muhammad Ali and the Vietnam War, and Kareem, Jim Brown, Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali came together, and just kind of, there was just like a change in Kareem in terms of just like his political views and all that. And then Wilt had the other political views of himself. Went off the deep end a little bit though, but that's probably the nicest thing I heard Kareem say.
18 rebounds in 27 games against Kareem. In an earlier interview, the ex-Lakers star described his intense games with Chamberlain, claiming, "Wilt would have destroyed me," detailing how difficult it was to hang with the legend on the court. This comment just goes on to show how physically imposing Wilt was, even over a big man like Kareem. Up next, we have Scottie Pippen's thoughts on Wilt. Michael Jordan is largely seen as the single greatest basketball player of all time. So you'd think that MJ's teammates, the guys who watched him do his magic live, would say the same same thing, that MJ is the GOAT. Well, you'll be surprised to find out, but not everyone from the 90s Bulls locker room agrees. Back in 2018, Scottie Pippen was asked who he thought was the GOAT of the NBA. His answer was pretty unexpected. Instead of saying MJ, Pippen told the host, "In my eyes, Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest basketball player." This comment caused quite a stir among the media and MJ fans. Many people were astonished how Pippen, the Robin to Jordan's Batman, called someone else the GOAT of basketball. So much for team loyalty, huh? But the truth is that Pippen was kind of right. While Mike is great in his own right, Wilt is just a step above everyone. No one, and we mean absolutely no one, can even hold a candle to the Big Dipper's stats. Not even MJ. Moving on to what Bill Russell thinks of his greatest rival. Do you know what truly makes someone exceptional? When even their rivals can't deny their abilities. Back in 1997, Chamberlain and Bill Russell sat down for one of basketball's most legendary interviews. After all, there were two forebears of the NBA that we all love today. Here's what Russell had to say about one of his biggest rivals in the interview. "Wilt was far and away the greatest player I've ever played against." He continued, "I'm the only guy on this planet who knows how great you, Wilt, are." Now, these words would be a huge deal coming out of any legend's mouth. But when one of the greatest competitors says that, that's just on a whole other level. The Wilt versus Russell rivalry was one of the greatest ever. They faced off over 140 times in just the 60s. Though Russell and the Celtics won several of their championships at the expense of Chamberlain's team, the 11-time world champ couldn't help but rave about his rival's sheer dominance. When asked why Wilt averaged 50, Russell simply said, "That was special." Following up, here's what Rick Barry has to say. When asked about playing against Wilt Chamberlain, NBA Hall of Famer Rick Barry struggled to put Wilt's brilliance into words. He said, "I don't think anybody will come along who will be able to match the records that Wilt has accomplished." The best part is that Barry said all that while he was still in the league, actively competing against Chamberlain. Fast forward to the 1990s, and Rick reaffirmed his respect for Wilt by stating that no one who knows the game of basketball could ever choose anyone other than Chamberlain as the greatest all-around center to ever play the game. Sure, you could argue that Kareem had a more fundamentally sound game, that Shaq was a force of nature on the post, or that Russell was a nightmare to score against. But when it comes to a total offensive and defensive package, there's only one name that comes up, and that's Wilt Chamberlain. He excelled at every facet of the game. The man averaged over 9 assists per game in one season, which is still to this day unheard of for a 7-foot center. Not to mention Earl Monroe's comments about Chamberlain. When asked to weigh in on the GOAT debate, Earl the Pearl Monroe had only one name in mind, Wilt Chamberlain. Monroe played against Wilt for the latter part of his career. This was the point at which the Dipper was starting to change up his style. He became more of an assist guy, while Monroe was that generation's Allen Iverson. He was the complete opposite of Chamberlain, with the flashy ball handling and the brilliant shot making, but Earl claims he was always left in awe when he saw the way Wilt controlled the floor. He went as far as to say that there's no real debate saying that people marvel at LeBron and Michael, even saying Michael transformed the NBA for generations after the 1980s. He continued, "But I don't put him, Jordan, ahead of Wilt." What's up with NBA legends choosing Wilt over MJ? But you can't really blame them. Wilt invented things that are still part of the game today. He made the game what it is. The one-legged fadeaway, the finger roll-up, all of it was pioneered by Chamberlain. Monroe thinks what sets Wilt apart is how he forced one of the great rule changes in league history. Players were allowed to jump as far as they could from the free throw line in order to land a shot. We say players, but we actually mean Wilt, since he was the only one that could do it. He used to dunk from the free throw line, but that was unfair for the others, which is why now you have to stay behind the line until the ball hits the backboard. Now that's what we call a game changer. Let's talk about Phil Jackson's opinion on Chamberlain. Phil Jackson has been around for a long time. He has enjoyed several championships as both a player and as a coach. Jackson is remembered for winning 3 championships with the Lakers in the early 2000s after leading the Bulls to 6 in the 1960s. And those championship-winning teams were led by the most unstoppable...
No, not the 60s, the 1990s. 91, 92, 93, 96, 97, 1998. Not the 60s, cause that was the Celtics domination.
unstoppable, low-blocked force of nature we'd seen since Wilt in the shape of Shaq. So when Coach Jackson was asked to settle the debate on the most dominant offensive force ever, many expected he would say Shaq, the player he coached. But Phil said that while O'Neal was great, he didn't nearly have the speed or athleticism that Wilt had. He claimed Shaq had a jump hook and that's it, while on the other hand, Chamberlain had a range of shots. He had the hook, the finger roll, and of course, the turnaround jump shot. In response to the coach's remarks, Wilt admitted that Shaq's game is ideal for the modern day NBA, but added, if he was facing me, not so good. I'm the guy who can bench press 600 pounds. Now that is classic Wilt. Talking of Shaq, here's what the Giant has to say about Wilt distilled. Shaq was an absolute force when he started out his NBA career. Ever since day one, people were drawing comparisons between him and Chamberlain. Shaq has always talked about how much respect he has for Wilt. The 7-footer has on several occasions mentioned how his dad loved Chamberlain and always told Shaq to look at Wilt's game for guidance. While O'Neal has never publicly spoken about Chamberlain, he did write in his book how he regrets not going up and talking to the legend when he met him at a restaurant. Shaq thinks that he missed out on a huge opportunity, and that if he ever came across Wilt again, he definitely wouldn't let his pride and ego get in the way. Finally, Kevin Durant's comments about Wilt's 100-point game. While talking in an interview, Brooklyn Nets star Kevin Durant was asked what he thought of Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. Katie replied that it's very hard to achieve something like that, and the fact that Wilt was able to do it cements him as one of the GOATs. Durant continued, it's like hearing Zeus. It's that legend, that myth around those guys. Whoa, being compared to a god. Now that is a compliment. That's a wrap for this video.
All right, it was still a good video. There was, like I said, there was some things that needed to be corrected that I kind of corrected in the video right there. But here NBA legends talk about the greatness of Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Walton, Shaquille O'Neal, Kevin Durant, Scottie Pippen, Rick Barry, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That Scottie Pippen one, I mean, this brother will be he would probably say Karl Malone is the greatest of all time tomorrow. He'll probably would say Grant Hill's the greatest of all time next week. Maybe in October, he might go ahead and say Steph Curry is the greatest player of all time. Heck, he might even go further down and might be Nikola Jokic is the greatest player of all time in 1 year. I mean, Scottie Pippen would be switching every single time. He said LeBron, he said Jordan, he said Wilt. He just can't make his mind up. He really can't just make his mind up. And Scottie went off a deep end. I mean, he went off the deep end. And yeah, he ain't never gonna say Jordan's the GOAT no more after the Last Dance and the whole thing with Larissa Pippen and Marcus Jordan. So I mean, oof. Yeah, he ain't gonna say Jordan's the greatest player of all time. I would say no more. But we're not talking about MJ. But Wilt was just special. That's all you need to know. Wilt was special, and for a guy that averaged 50 points a game, a guy that could average 20-something rebounds a game, I mean, that's just sick. He grabbed 55 rebounds in one game, and then if block shots was a statistic back in the day, who knows how many he probably would have had the record of the most block shots in the game, and he probably would have had the all-time record in block shots. And then, other than Hakeem, I mean, Wilt was a force to be reckoned with. So don't play when it comes to Wilt Chamberlain, man. So definitely comment down below and tell me your thoughts more on Wilt Chamberlain. And then if you have another Wilt Chamberlain reaction video, please let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to ItzJustJP for more content. Click the notification bell. You know where our next upload is on the road to 40K. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm JP, and we out of here. Peace.